All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So before we actually start working on our app, let's go ahead and take a look at what newsapi.org has. Okay, so I have pulled up the newsapi.org. First of all, you go ahead and get yourself an API key, and it is free. So you can actually get it, but if you want to see what the breakdown for the pricing is, here is the pricing. As you can see, for developer it is $0, and you can make 100 requests per day. That's quite a lot. So basically what you can do is you can visit newsapi.org, get yourself API key. Also read the documentation. There is a good documentation that is listed here, and in most of the case, there's different kind of news, but the structure that is followed is pretty similar. So we have a news, or basically a top level wrapper, which talks about status and total number of news articles that it is going to return, along with an article object. And an article object itself has where the article is coming from, who is the author, title, description, URL, and URL to image, published, and content. So this is repeated over and over. So as you can see that articles are a bunch of objects, and source is another object. So we're gonna base off this structure and create our data structure based on what we see here. And like I said, it doesn't matter which category you choose, JSON response is same. And we're going to be also using URL response, and we're going to create a generic network manager that literally you can use with any other API. And as long as you're doing some basic things, which we'll talk about, you should be able to basically use that networking manager happily and fetch the data out from the internet. Okay. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and close this and back to our project. And here what we have done is we just have a simple view. So I'm going to create everything right here on this file, and I would highly recommend you creating separate files for everything. Okay, so first thing first, we're gonna start with the news, or the top level wrapper, which is the news, and we're gonna create object for that. So we're gonna start with a struct news, and this is gonna conform to codable protocol, because we are gonna be leveraging JSON decoder to decode, and Swift is gonna help us as long as we are conforming to codable protocol. We also want to make sure that we actually conform to identifiable protocol, because we want to identify each individual news item independently. Okay, so we're going to create a ID for this, and we're going to say UUID. Okay, and then we're going to create status. Now these are exactly the keys as they are provided inside the news API response. Okay, so news API response has basically status, total result, and articles. So we're gonna have the same thing. So status is string, then you have total results, and that is an integer, and then we have articles, which is an object of article. Now you can see article type is not found. It is not defined yet, so we're going to create that. But before that, we want to create something called coding keys. Okay, now we can remove this, and let's talk about coding keys. So coding keys is a way to map your own names of the keys that you're using in the object to the name that response is giving you. So for example, if let's say JSON response was giving you a key total underscore results, okay, and our object is called total results without an underscore, in that case we'll actually map that value just like this. Okay, now we don't have to do this because we are keeping our names same as the keys that are returned. Now, reason we are doing this, you can see we are not changing any of the names. Reason we are doing this because ID is an additional field, and what is going to happen is JSON decoder will go and try to search for ID inside the news API response, and it won't find it because it doesn't exist. So we're going to tell it that when you are parsing, consider only these things, and that's what this coding keys is for. Only use these things to parse. So look for these keys and populate their values. ID is not there, so skip that. Okay, so that is basically the reason we are actually creating this coding keys. Now, once we have done this, let's go ahead and create our article object. Okay, then article object is pretty much similar. So I'm going to copy and paste the code, and we're going to do basically same thing. Okay, and what we are doing is now there's another error, and we'll actually resolve this one. But what we are doing is we are making sure that article conforms to codable protocol. It is also identifiable protocol, so we can iterate over the articles and identify each article independently. Okay, so there is an ID here, and these are all the properties that we get back from the news API. Now, published at is a date returned to us in the form of a string. Okay, so that's why it's parsed as, or it's defined as a string. Now what we are doing is we are creating similar to the last one. We are creating a coding key, and we are skipping ID, so everything else is going in. Now the error is the source is not defined type, because source is another type that we are using, and source is a child of article. Okay, and source contains where the news is generated from, who actually provided the news, if there is an ID, and name. Okay, so we're going to use this for author. So let's go ahead and create an object for that, and this one has an ID, and this one we are not going to be iterating individually, so I'm just going to leave it without identifiable protocol. Okay, so that's all the data structure that we need in order to create this news app. Okay, so now we are done with the news, and since we rely on fetching news articles from an external source, we want to make sure that we actually make network calls to retrieve the content from newsapi.org. Now, to handle these cases efficiently, we will create a dedicated networking manager. And that networking manager will use URL session, and a URL session is basically iOS way of fetching making network calls and fetching data on our behalf. So we are not going to be using any external party or external dependencies. We're simply going to be using everything native. And the manager that we're going to create, this networking manager, will be responsible for sending the request, handling the response, and decoding JSON data into a Swift model object. And that model object we can display in SwiftUI. Now we are going to do it in generic way, so we can pass just the news, or we can pass just the article or any other data structure, and call an endpoint and get the parse result in Swift format. Okay, so that's the intent for networking manager. So in the next video, we're gonna just get right onto it. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.